Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the South Forum on Sustainability. The theme is the politics of hope, people's resilience and resistance in catastrophic times. Today, we have a lecture on garbage, the dark side of industrial civilization by Professor Tian Song. We provide English, Chinese, and Spanish simultaneous interpretation. You can choose the interpretation at the bottom of the computer screen. We would like to thank today's interpreters, Lola Laventris, Mercedes Pico, Liang Yin, and also Li Menghong. May I first introduce the co-moderators for today's section. My name is Xue Cui, Margaret Jadi. I am Associate Professor at the Institute of Rural Reconstruction of China, Southwest University in China. I am board member of Asian Regional Exchange for New Alternatives and one of the founding members of Global University for Sustainability. I have been actively involved in the rural reconstruction movement in China since 2000. Professor Rolien is Assistant Professor at the School of Journalism and Communication of the Chinese University of Hong Kong and Director of the Master in Global Communication. Her research addresses digital infrastructures and data-centric technologies in particular contexts of practice, including urban politics as well as ecological politics and electronic waste. Moreover, her multi-sited research encompasses Turkey, Hong Kong, and Europe, which prompts her interest in comparative possibilities. Recently, published work has appeared in Antipode, Television and New Media, an international journal of culture studies. She is the editor of a special issue entitled Digital Infrastructure, the Minimality and Wealth-Making via Asia, published with the International Journal of Communication. She is the editor of a book entitled Communication, Innovation and Digital Technology, a critique of the new in a multipolar world, published by Michigan State University Press. So please, Professor Rolien. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I first want to start by thanking Genji and also Margaret. I actually have attended the forum for quite a few years in a row now. And of course, we're also all sad that this year we don't see each other, but I also think we should realize that flying around is just not how we can continue forever. So we better get creative and find other solutions at the same time. And I think Genji is really setting a very good model for us. So it is my great pleasure to be here again this year, and especially to introduce Professor Tian Song, because we have been in touch over email, but we hadn't had the opportunity to actually meet yet. His research is absolutely fascinating. What I really appreciate about his profile is that he is a very interdisciplinary scholar who seems to be able to work in a humanities and social science setting, because that is the name of the center where he works at the Southern University of Science and Technology here across the border in Shenzhen. And the topic that he works on is actually related to science and technology. So often people in the humanities and in the social sciences don't really talk about science and technology, but it's very important that we do that. And that's, we have critical thinkers such as Professor Chen to lead us in this. So Professor Chen has actually a PhD in history of science as well as in the philosophy of science, both from the Beijing Normal University, and he also has had postdoctoral research at Peking University and has visited many other famous universities such as Berkeley and Harvard and Cornell as a visiting researcher also. And his interest, I will now just read it because I want to formulate it exactly as Professor Chen likes to see it. So philosophy of science, fundamental theory, philosophy of physics, history of science, sociology of science, anthropology of science, environmental philosophy, and science communication, and science and art. And to me, that sounds just all really really important and also very interesting and delightful work. So I suggest that without further ado, we will now first listen to the lecture, which will last anywhere between 1 hour and 90 minutes. And after that, we still have ample time to discuss among us and to ask questions to Professor Jen. So welcome, Professor Jen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rolien, for introducing me, and thank you, Jianzhi, thank you, Xue, and thank you for manage this lecture. Now I share my screen. Just minutes. Okay, here is the title. Yeah, the garbage, the dark side of industrial civilization, and I think about the garbage problem for many years, and here is the contents I try to talk about tonight, and I will try to finish it within 1 hour, and we can have more time to discuss it. So here is the contents, and maybe I should read it line by line. The first garbage issue is inherent in industrial civilization. The second, garbage is the incurable disease of industrial civilization. And then I will talk about the two main mechanisms of industrial civilization. And the fourth, garbage issue in countryside. And the five, the two main problems we have to face too. And the last one, I will try to produce some method, some approach to solve, to maybe it's not a not a solution, but it's an approach to do that. I considered garbage issues since 1990s. When I saw the news, the biosphere 2 is constructing. So I don't know how many people know this place, and I visit this place in 2014 by myself, and I see it by myself. So the biosphere 2 is the largest artificial greenhouse. It's the last artificial ecosystem in the world. It's in Arizona. This is the idea of field 2, and it's trying to establish a safe, sustaining system. So the biosphere 2 is just like a greenhouse. It's everything inside it. It's it's very big. It's pretty big. Inside the biosphere 2, there is plants. There is some animals, and even there is a forest and a lake. Is pretty big. So it's the establisher wish to make a safe, sustaining system inside this system, inside the biosphere 2, and everything goes in circulation, just like human breathe, human emit out the CO2, carbon dioxide, and plants take in CO2, and plants produce food, and human eat food, and everything goes like a circle. The biosphere 2 it's closed. So the everything inside the biosphere 2 are not allowed to go out. And also the place, the material outside the biosphere 2 are not allowed to go inside. So it's a safe sustaining system. But it allows the solar energy because it's a greenhouse. So the solar energy can go inside. And also the heat can emit outside out the system. So that means the energy can go out inside or go outside, but material cannot. So this is the system. But my undergraduate major was physics, so I think about it naturally from perspective of physics, naturally from the perspective of thermodynamics. So considering it from the thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, I doubt it. I don't believe it can work. So I predicted that it would fail. Actually, some years later, I got the news. It failed as my prediction. The theory may be more complicated, not very interesting. So let's move to an easy example. Here is a bottle of spring water. So I asked a question, why we can drink a bottle of spring water in a city. According to the label of this spring water, the water inside the bottle came from 错草 spring, 长白 mountain. So it's odd things to me. So in the traditional way, if I can drink such water, we have to go to the Changbai mountain, go to the spring, and drink the water in this spring. But now we can drink it in the city. Why? And what happened? Here is my conclusion. The first, we can buy it. It's not very expensive, and we can buy it. And that means the company, the spring water company, put the water inside the bottle, and the bottle go inside the global system of the economy, go to every city, and we can buy it. But this means the water leave out the place. But actually, originally, the water has ecological function. In that place, there is plants, there are animals, and maybe there's more other peoples. All of them needed water. All the water had the function in the ecosystem, but the spring water company take the water away. So that means we drink a bottle of spring water that is harmful to the ecosystem of the place of the spring, of the mountain. This is the first link, the first condition. We can the first condition and the first consequence of the thing we drink the spring water. But only the first condition is not enough. There must be another condition. That is, we can throw the bottle. We can throw the bottle in any garbage can in the city. We can throw it away. If you are not allowed to throw away the bottle, you have to keep the bottle in your bag. You have to keep the bottle in your home, in your room. Would you like to drink the spring water? And how many you would like to drink? So the second condition is as same important as the first one. That is the condition. We can drink the bottle, the spring water. Well, what that means? That means the city have to buy some place outside the city, not inside the city, outside the city, dumping the garbage of the city. But the place of the garbage dump originally, maybe there are some plants, some animals, maybe some people. So the city dumped garbage there. That means it's harmful to the ecosystem of the garbage dump place. So that's the second. So that means if we drink, it's an easy thing. So everybody, we do that. We drink the bottled water, especially the spring water. The water came from the mountain. And but it means the two bad things. The one at the beginning is harmful to the mountain, and at the end it's harmful to the place for the dumping garbage, and this is the condition and the consequence we drink the bottled water. Actually, the bottled water is a metaphor. For me, it is a metaphor. And I try to ask a question for everything in the city, like the computer, the cell phone, or the lamp, anything. I ask the same question. It's Gauguin's question. Where do we came from? What are we? Where we are going? I try to ask this question to everything inside the city, and I found some problem. Okay, and I found some I get some conclusion. So here is the diagram I made it. So on the left part, the yellow part is every products in the city. That is our industrial civilization. And where they came from, everything, if you go trace back to find the very beginning, everything came from forest, natural waters, and mineral resources. And after the usage in the city, every products, especially the technological products in the city, after its usage, it will become garbage. And here I generalize the garbage in more generally. So the normal garbage, and I call it the solid state garbage, the solid garbage. And wastewater is the liquid garbage. And waste gas, that's gaseous garbage. And also there is the fourth state garbage, that is heat. The heat itself is a kind of garbage, because every energy, like the lamp, after its usage, it became heat. So heat is the fourth state of the garbage. From according to my theory, the global warming is a kind of garbage problem. It's a manifestation of garbage problem. And I can make this diagram more briefly. Let's go in this way. The same, the green part, yellow part, and the dark part. The yellow part is the contemporary human civilization. It's just like a machine. It transforms the matter and energy in low entropy state, the green part. That is the forest, natural waters, and mineral resources. And the machine transform those kind of matter and energy into the dark part. That is the matter and energy in high entropy state. The fourth state of garbage I just mentioned. And then last, I make it more briefly in this way. The yellow part is the industrial civilization, and the green part is the nature, and dark part is the garbage. So the industrial civilization is a machine to transform nature into garbage. That is the mechanism of industrial civilization. So our city based beside the garbage dump, because a city is the symbol of industrial civilization, and it's transformed nature into garbage, and it has to leave the garbage around the city. It's just like the heat engine. So the right part is a diagram of the heat engine. A heat engine make use of the two temperature, two heat resources. The one is Q1. Q1 is high temperature heat resources, and the Q2 is the lower temperature heat resources. The W is the engine, and the engine. So from Q1 to Q2, there is a flow of heat, and the engine W make use of a part of this heat flow to make it work. That is the principle of heat engine. So we can compare it. We can compare the heat engine with the industrial civilization. So according to the second law of thermodynamics, a machine, a heat engine, cannot make use of only one heat resources. That means only Q1 is not work. You have to, the heat engine has to have a Q2. That means the heat engine has to output some heat, some waste heat, some not usable heat. So in this diagram, you can say it, the garbage garbage problem. Garbage is not avoidable. Compare it with the left part, the industrial civilization. Can only nature cannot make it work. It has to have a garbage dump, can make it work. Now I move to the second part. The two mechanisms of the industrial civilization. The first is the chain of science, technology, production, industry, and pollution waste. So softly, it's STPI and PW. STPI, PW. And the second mechanism of industrial civilization is the food chain of modernization and globalization. Let me explain the first together. So this is in the industrial civilization, and we have some myths to science and technology, and we believe science and technology can make our life better, can give a better life. So for everything, and we have the chain of STPI. For example, we try to produce more food. And make more production of agriculture. So how we do that? How we start the chain of STPI? So the first, we have to give an explanation for the growing of plants. We have the principle of the plants. We have the some scientific explanations for the relationship of plants and the soil. And we find the plants need some special elements of the soil. So this is a science explanation. Once we have this explanation, and we have a possibility to interfere it by technology. So we will think about it. Oh, the soil is not good enough. For example, the soil shortage. There's shortage of nutrition, some nutrition. So we can put it artificially. We can put it by ourselves. So that is the principle of chemical fertilizer. This is the technology for the chemical fertilizer. And then we will invent a product, some special more and more kind of chemical fertilizer. When we have a product, we will have an the industry of chemical fertilizer. So this is the chain from S to T to P and to I, STPI, the chain. So in the industrial civilization, we believe that this chain can make us more happy, can give us a happy life. So every chain of STPI can make our life better. So in the industrial civilization, there is more and more STPI, more and more chains of STPI. But the the chain does not run in air, does not run in lab. The chain has to run in a real society, has to run in a specified environment. When the chain run in the environment, and what happened? So at least there is two. I invent some principle. This is one of it. The first ecological principle of industrial factory. A factory. No matter what products it produce, like a factory produce a cup, and it will locate somewhere, some place. In this place, originally there may have an ecosystem. Some ecosystem exists there. And now I built a factory there. This factory definitely is not a part of the ecosystem. It's not a link of the ecosystem. It's the alien of the ecosystem. And the raw material, the raw material of the glasses came from the international market. It's not necessarily has a relationship with the place around the factory. And the raw material may come from anywhere in the world. And the products will go to the international market. That means the raw material and the products all belong to the international market, all belong to the industrial civilization. Maybe that's not necessary has a relationship with the local place. But the factory has to use the local water, the water. So if the water came from the remote area, it will be more expensive. It's not economic. So the water came from the local place. And most important is it has to leave its garbage at the local land. And also it may pollute the local water, the local land, and the local air. So that is the first ecological principle of industrial factory. No exception, any factory. And also I just mentioned the spring water as a metaphor of everything in the city. And from that metaphor of spring water, and I have another principle, another law, is the theoretical law of pollution and waste of any science technology product. Just like this cup, I trace it, and it came from the nature. And after usage, it became garbage. It will go to the garbage. So every products. Now I combine the chain of STPI does not run in air, does not run in lab. the chain STPI run in some environment, and it will meet the first ecological law of industrial factory, and also its products has to meet the theoretical law of the pollution and waste. So that means we combine everything together. The chain of STPI actually is the chain of STPI PW. That means science, technology, product, industry, and pollution and waste. Any chain of science, technology, product, industry has to produce pollution and waste. So summary, I can see it. The running of the chain is harmful both to natural ecological system and human life. Now the things goes to the other side. So at the very beginning, we believe that the chain can give us a better life. But actually, the chain, it's the running of the chain make the is a damage to the global ecological system. And actually, after the 300 years industrial civilization, our sunshine, our air, our water, everything has been changed. And now we have to face the globalized environmental crisis and globalized ecological crisis. That's the result of the chain, the running of chain. So that is the conclusion. The garbage problem is inherent in the industrial civilization. If we keep the way of industrial civilization, we cannot avoid the garbage problem. It's the same. This is the slogan we often say it. We have only one Earth. For this slogan, we have a standard explanation is the Earth is limited, the resource is limited, so we have to use it carefully and make a sustainable life. But what I want to say is, what is limited is not only the resource of the Earth, but also the capacity for holding the garbage made by humans. And so in our life, in our time, and people believe in science and technology. So every problem we meet, we trust, we believe, we have an illusion that the new science and technology, the future science and technology will solve the problem. Now, let's see. Let me go back to the thermodynamics. thermodynamic, I just mentioned a lot about the heat engine, the thermodynamic system. Now I try to make another way, an easy way to explain it. That is the metabolism. Let's consider our body. If we have a health body, there is two conditions. The first, we have to eat. We have to take some material or energy with the low entropy inside our body. And the second, we have to leave out the garbage outside our body. If we only eat, we cannot have a healthy body. We will die. So the two conditions are both important. We have to eat and we have to leave out something. It's a human body. Consider a human body. It's also a kind of thermodynamic system. Also, we can think about a city, considering a city. We consider a city as a thermodynamic system, or we consider a city as a body, as a huge animal's body, and the city have to eat. So if we find some tunnel, some line, and you will find. So the things go inside the city are the good things. So that means the clean water, the food, the gaseous, electricity, something like that. But at the same time, the city has to take out the high entropy materials. So every early morning, you can see the garbage trunk go out the city. And if your trees a line, a tube, so the clean water go inside the city and the dirty water go outside the city, take out of the city. We can expand this analogy into a more scale. So let's go back to the thermodynamics. I just mentioned the at the beginning, very beginning, I mentioned the biosphere 2, and the biosphere 2 failed. So that is because the solution, the technological solution, has its limitation. The limitation is drawn by the second law of thermodynamics, because the recycling cannot be 100%. Garbage, the recycling cannot be 100%. We cannot reuse it. We cannot just like at the beginning, I mentioned the heat engine. We cannot use the only one heat resource. We have to output the waste. So that is the line, the limitation of the technological problem. So maybe I can give you another analogy, like a cake. We can eat the cake directly. Also, if the cake is smashed, became some fragment of the cake, and we can eat it in this way. We can eat it in this way. So according to the first law of thermodynamics, the first law, that is the law of conservation of matter and energy. So the cake and the fragment of the cake are the same from the seen by the first law. It's same. But now I threw away the fragment of the cake. So the fragment of the cake everywhere is there. According to the first law, the cake is still there. The cake is still there. We can pick up the cake one piece by one piece, make it together. And it's also the original cake. It's the same. But we have to use more energy to pick up the fragment of the cake. We have to use more energy to collect the cake. If the energy we used is more than the energy the cake can give me, the cake is not recyclable. So that is the second law. The second law, draw a line for the solution by technology. So right now, everybody knows we have garbage process. We treat the garbage. We try to treat the garbage. What is that? Actually, there's maybe this statement is pretty strong, too strong, maybe too strong, but it can make us think about it more seriously. The statement is no garbage process, only garbage transformation from one state to another state, from United to China, from one state to another state. If you burn it from solid state to gaseous state, also from one place to another place, from the city out to the place outside the city. From the place can be seen by human to the place cannot be seen by human. We hide it, we make it invisible, we dump it, we burn it, we make it invisible, and as if it's not exist. And also from the place occupied by the people with higher speaking power to the place with lesser speaking power. That means from the place living with the rich people to the place living poor people. That is the way we treat garbage. So, and here is the more extreme example. In the Pacific Ocean, there is two big garbage patch. It's so big, like an island, big island. And also there is some space, the garbage outside in outer space, the space trunk. And this this picture is made by NASA. It's made by computer. And every white dot is a piece of space junk. So we can see our outer space covered by the garbage produced by human, produced by industrial civilization. This is another picture. It's imitate another perspective, the inner side of the Earth. So the Earth covered by the space junk. Now, I introduced the second curve mechanism of industrial civilization. That is the food chain of globalization and modernization. Or I can say the globalization and modernization is just like a food chain. And its conduct, its goals, its runs in this way. The upstream countries or areas have the priority to use the energy and the resources from the downstream. And second, dump their garbage to the downstream. That is the food chain. And the downstream and the upstream has different scales. We see it globally. The America, Europe, Japan are the upstream countries, and China, Africa, South America, South Asia are the downstream countries. And if we say United States, the east and the west coast, the coast areas are the upstream place, and the inner part are the downstream place. If you see China, the east coast area at the upstream, and the west are the downstream. If we see a city, the inner part of the city at the upstream, and outside the city, the rural side of the city are the downstream. So that is the, we have the phenomena of garbage besiege the cities. Every city around by many garbage dumps. And how about countryside? What is countryside? Now I move to the another part of my talk. Here is a village in Yunnan province, and I took this picture in the year 2000. Actually, in 1990s, when I noticed the biosphere 2, and I think about the garbage problem. So in the year 2000, I went to Yunnan province and do my field research, and I visited many villagers and every villagers, and I try to find the garbage dump of the village, and I want to see how many garbage the village have, how they treat it. So the city can dump garbage to the village, to the countryside, but how about the village? Where their garbage? This picture, so I'm not sure. So please notice the central, the the central, the exactly center of the picture. Can you see some special thing? That's it. That's it. See it? It's in the right center of the picture. A garbage can, a garbage can. So this kind of village, very beautiful village, is at the besides the lake Lugu Lake. It has such a thing. So that means this village has many garbage, and they have to treat it together. And I was shocked. Then I predict that there must be some garbage dump outside the city, not so far, not so close, because that's humans' natural quality, humans' intuition. We cannot live inside the garbage, so we have to move the garbage outside, but not so far, because if we leave the garbage so far, it will be more difficulty. But because it's the first time I visit this village, so I cannot ask this question directly. It's not polite. So I keep this question until some years later, one of my friends visited that place again, and I asked her to take some photos of the garbage dump. So in the year 2004, my friend Zhao Hua took the picture of the garbage pail produced by that village, produced by Li Ge. This is the garbage pail, just outside. And also, Zhao Hua produced some more pictures. This is another village nearby Li Ge. This is another village. And so this village have many tourists. And maybe twice a week, this trunk go around the village, and the villager put their garbage on the trunk, and the trunk go out the village, dump the garbage here. This is the garbage dump. It's long in the forest, and the lake Lugu is just at the lower place. And at the year 2008, and I visited this area again. This is another lake close to the lake Lugu, and in the other side of the lake, and we can see something white in the mountain. Something white in the mountain, and let's go closer to the white things. This is the garbage dump produced by those area, because we took the photos, and CCTV make a program to criticize those area, because criticize they just dump their garbage in the hill, in the woods outside village. So the government, the local government, established a modern garbage dump in the mountain, and this garbage dump was designed by Tsinghua University. So this is almost a standard garbage dump, a standard one, and its lifespan, its design lifespan is 25 years. That means after 25 years, and the garbage dump will be closed. The white things are some memory. After the when it's closed, the memory will cover the garbage, and the plastic memory was supposed to separate the garbage and outside the garbage, to separate the water, and water cannot go inside after it's closed. So that is the design. This is the countryside of the garbage. Because the countryside, if we see in the large scale, the countryside is in the downstream area. It's in the downstream area. So the city can move, can take out their garbage, to dump garbage to the countryside, but the countryside cannot dump their garbage outside the country, outside the village. They have to find some place inside the village to dump their garbage. So this place became the downstream of the downstream. That is the in the if we view it from the globally industrial system, we can predict it like in the mountains there will be more and more similar garbage dump there. Okay, let's stop these issues a moment, and we move to we change the topic. We talk something, some other things. We go back. People always have some illusions, even they know the second law of thermodynamics. They still think about maybe we can find some way to go beyond the limitation. And the energy worship is one of it. So this is the it's very general. Many people have the idea, have the opinion, or have the belief. They believe that if we have enough energy, our industrial civilization will continue. Our modern life, our way of life will continue. So they consider, they even have more detailed project. If we have more enough energy, and we can burn the garbage, we can make the garbage into atoms, and every garbage will not be garbage, and something like that. And also, some people believe we can if we have enough energy and we can throw the garbage outside the earth. We can throw the garbage into other planets, and even we can throw the garbage into some black hole of the gaseous, and the garbage problem will be solved. And also, we have we can our everything will continue. But this is just an illusion. So we can see it from the other perspective. If we have infinitive energy, that means the machine of industrial civilization will run in infinitive speed. That means we will make the nature into garbage in a very, very quickly speed. We will make infinitive garbage. So from this perspective, the energy, if we have the infinitive energy, that will not be a good thing for human life. That will be the bad, will be the disaster of human life. So here is my conclusion. The final way will be the civilization transformation. We have to find a new way of life from industrial civilization to ecological civilization. We will face these two problems in the long time in future. In the long time, we will face these two problems. The first is because of the industrial civilization is still very powerful. So the new garbage is still producing more quickly, more complicated. So every new technology, especially every material technology, we will produce a new kind of special garbage. At the very beginning, I said, seeing the garbage problem from thermodynamics and from ecology. I didn't tell so more about ecology. And here I gave some explanation of ecology, how to see the garbage issues from the perspective of ecology. I just mentioned in the countryside. Actually, I myself grew up in a small village of northeast of China. In my memory, in my childhood, in the village, there's no garbage. No garbage. Everything came from nature and go back to nature. Like the food, the left food, the food over. We feed animals, and some dust we go to the pig pit, and it became fertilizer. So no garbage in the countryside of my childhood. And why in the village, in the countryside, there is so much garbage? That's because the traditional garbage and the modern garbage are different. The important difference is the modern garbage. In the modern garbage, most material are produced by human. Most material are produced by the factory of chemical industrial. In the traditional society, in the traditional life, the material, most material came from nature, like the fiber. It came from cotton, nature. And after its usage, it easily go back to the nature. But if the fiber came from the chemical industrial, it cannot go back to nature. Because from the perspective of ecology, the nature evolved. Everything evolved together. All materials, all organism, microorganism, bacterial, enzyme, insect, worm, birds, the animals. So everything, they have orders. Things are not, everything has its order in the nature. The materials also have the order. Materials cannot be, not stay randomly, not randomly. So when the earth starts, all the materials has its order, not randomly. But after the chemical industrial, after in the human life, we have more and more artificial materials. Those artificial materials did not evolve from the nature. They are produced by human. So in the nature, there is no microorganism, no bacteria, no enzyme can separate, can degrade the artificial materials. So the materials, if the materials are dumped there, it cannot dissolve by the nature itself. It lives there, it's garbage. So that is why in the countryside, in the present countryside, the more and more artificial materials goes there, and they cannot go back to nature. So every new technology, like nanotechnology will give us the nano garbage. So the first in the nowadays, we still in the industrial civilization, and the industrial civilization is still very powerful. And so the problem is that we have to find the new place for dumping the new garbage, the more amount, more complicated garbage. That is the first problem we have to face. And the second, the closed garbage dump won't keep quiet. They will make more troubles. They will some gaseous liquid or gaseous leakage, or even explosion. Garbage dump is the most mysterious place in the world. The most mysterious place in the world. Because if you go to a forest everything in the forest has its order. You go to the ocean, the deep ocean, the things in deep ocean also has its order. But in the garbage dump, there's no order, only chaos. Every materials came together, and all the materials, they never meet together in the out the dump. They can only meet inside the garbage dump. And what kind of chemical reaction, we don't know. People don't know. So it's most mysterious. For the second, I just mentioned two problems. For the second, the garbage dump, the closed garbage dump, we can imagine the ideal garbage dump is the concrete tomb. We make a strong tomb for the garbage and cover it, close it. And what it is the stones or the calculus of Gaia. Gaia. You can see, you can regard Gaia as the globally ecosystem. The garbage tomb is not a part of the ecosystem. It's the alien of the local ecosystem. So it's the stones of the Gaia. And the garbage dump, even the concrete tomb, no matter how strong it is, it cannot stronger than the earth itself. So it will break out. So it will become the answer of Gaia. For the first, how can we, for the first is we are still in the industrial civilization and we still produce more garbage. So how can we stop it? How we stop it? Actually, if we try to stop such garbage, that means we find a way, we find an approach to move from industrial civilization to ecological civilization. And so the first is we can start from countryside. From the country's garbage process in countryside to rural construction. And actually in China, there is many volunteering teams. They are working actively in countryside, in villages, and they trying to find a way to treat the garbage. So they have many experience, successful experience for doing that. Like we just separate the food garbage, the wheat garbage, separate and leave it for dumping, for deposit fertilizer, and can reduce the amount of garbage even 90%. So that means we can very big extent to solve the garbage, to dump lesser garbage. And similarly, at the same time, the garbage, if the garbage change to the fertilizer, And if the garbage change to organic fertilizer and will be used by the eco agriculture. So the garbage process is not only one process. It's a part of the rural construction, countryside construction. We have to stop the industrial agriculture, change industrial agriculture to ecological agriculture. And this is another my statement. The ecological agriculture is the prerequisite and the basement of ecological civilization. So from the garbage process in the countryside started from it, and then you will find you have to. It's not only a way for treating garbage. You have to change the structure of the village. You have to change the structure of the agriculture. That means you have to make a small experiment of civilization from industrial agriculture to ecological agriculture. And that is a way to ecological civilization. And how about in the cities? Nowadays, there's more volunteer. They are doing a thing, zero waste movement. Zero waste movement. Actually, as I just mentioned before, it's important. Zero waste is important because of the second law of thermodynamics. But if we try to produce smaller garbage, we will find this is also a way it's also a way to change industrial civilization. Because if you these two pictures is from the zero waste movement, and the left part, the can hold a girl's 1 year garbage. A girl's, the whole year it produced all the garbage put inside this small can. That means it can she do not dress so more, and she use little things. That is the opposite direction of industrial civilization, because the industrial civilization need every people use more things, can make more money. So this is the another direction. So if we start zero waste, and then you find you have to change the whole structure of the industrial civilization. Now I'm going to the last pages of my talk. The real question is not how to develop, but how to stop. The real question is not, the real question is not how to develop sustainably, but how to survive sustainably. And at the process of change from the industrial civilization to ecological civilization, many things has to be changed. And one thing, the question for what kind of life is good life has to be changed. What kind of life is good life? And this is some word by Leopold. Leopold, in the preface of the Leopold's the work, the Sandy Almanac, and I say it in another way. And Leopard asked, what kind of is good life? To watching TV or cell phone or watching flower or birds. If more and more people, most people believe watching TV, watching cell phone is most important things, it has to be an industrial civilization. It has to be the new cell phone, new technology, new things. But if more and more people believe that to watching birds, watching flower is more important than watching TV or cell phone, we may build ecological civilization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Chen. That was a wonderful lecture. And we have now, I think, about half an hour left. Maybe I would like to first ask if there are many people with questions already. And if you need a little bit more time to come up with your questions and to formulate them, then maybe I will start out with asking a question. But I see we will have some questions. So maybe I will ask one question first, and then we can continue with the question from Arjil. Okay, so what I want to ask first is why are the biodome experiments doomed to fail? Why are they not working? Is it because humans cannot think complexly enough? If we would only be smarter, or if we would only have more advanced technology, or if we would only have, I don't know, like more brilliant people working on it, then we get it right? Or is there another reason why they are always failing? The artificial ecosystems I'm asking about. Professor Chen, could you hear my question?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, my mind moved away. So, yeah. You just mentioned. So, why we live in this way? Because we are not smart.
So my question is you mentioned the experiment to create an artificial ecosystem, that is contained and where everything works in a supposedly sustainable way, but it is designed by humans. But in the end, it goes wrong. Yes. In the end, yes. It fails.
Yes.
So my question is, why do we as humans fail to design these systems? Why do we fail?
Okay. Thank you. This this is a complicated question. So I make some analogy because of the second law of thermodynamics, because it cannot hold the, so how can I describe it more easily? So that means I find a way. In the biosphere 2, the system have fresh energy from outside, only fresh energy from outside, and they can emit the dirty energy to outside the system, but the system cannot take in fresh material from outside, and also they cannot take out the dirty material inside the system. No fresh material go inside, no dirty material outside, so the system cannot wrong and wrong and wrong. It can only wrong a little bit, maybe 1 year, but cannot wrong another year. Yeah, this is a simple explanation for your question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we always need some new resources, and we also need to be able to dump our waste and unusable parts somewhere. And as long as humans are designing these systems, they actually always rely on having some kind of like extra resource or the ability to dump somewhere, and we cannot do without, if I understand you correctly, right?
Yeah, I can go it further. So the designer hope with the support of solar energy from outside can make the things inside, or can make the recycling 100%. But as I mentioned, according to the second law, even you have enough energy support, you cannot have the 100% garbage recycling. It can be, right. And also the energy from outside is not an infinitive amount, because the solar energy is still is keep the same amount, so it cannot make the recycling 100%. Yeah,
recycling, the process of recycling always creates more waste. Even though you recycle certain waste, you always create more waste in the process too.
Yes, that's right.
We cannot forget that.
Yeah.
And so maybe related to that, I want to also ask about waste incineration, so garbage incinerators, and the idea that if we burn waste, we can win energy. So what is your critique of that? Why is that not the solution?
Okay, you mean burning garbage?
Burning garbage in order to not just to get rid of the garbage only, but this idea that if we burn the garbage, we can gain the energy. So that is waste to energy incinerators. And I would like to, I mean, this is presented to us as, you know, like helping us to be sustainable. And look, we can even repurpose our waste, and our waste can become a source of energy. You know, so everything is magically working out. But I want to ask you, what is your critique of this kind of idea? And actually, it exists in the real world too, right? Where we have waste to energy facilities. Why are they not as good as it sounds according to you?
Okay, it's so I actually I mentioned that if you burn the garbage, that actually is you burn the garbage from the solid state into gaseous state. So it seems like we process the solid garbage, but at the same time you create the gaseous garbage, because the gaseous in the air. Actually, nowadays you said garbage burning always produced some poison gases. Always have some material or some components never exist in nature, never exist in the air. It's artificial materials. So it's go inside the gas and make the gas not as clean as before. So this is one reason I criticize, and also for another. So this is the garbage burning is a kind of technology, but inside the industrial civilization, all the technology has the similar things as I mentioned. It's also in the link, in the chain of STPI, PW. So the garbage burning technology is also a part of this. It cannot avoid. So this is the second reason. And maybe more reason is that sometimes you can say, oh, it can make some money, but actually only the company make money, and the most money it make is the government pay it. Yeah. Yes. So there's some.
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you very much. So even if you think about a circular economy, actually the idea of circular economy has become a business idea, right? And so somebody is making a product that they can sell again, but that doesn't prevent that in the process of the circular economy, actually we get more pollution and more waste too, and nobody's paying for that, right? So that is just Gaia who has to deal with it, to use your words, your terms. I see that we have a very carefully and I think long question from Azriel Bajal. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Would you like us to read it, or would you like to introduce your question yourself, Azriel? What do you prefer?
Okay. I read the first one. It's a real Bako.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
For the presentation, and it's a kind of objection with the provocation. The system approach to explain industrial civilization, it was wonderful. It's a feat. I mean, enlightening. Thank you. But I would like to frame it in the context of the world system of capitalism, because I think that is an important input into the civilization part, which is consumerism. Capitalism goes hand in hand with consumerism, and consumerism makes for the waste and the garbage and the problem that we are dealing with climate emergency. So I would like to ideologize a little bit, take some of the automatism of purely ecological analysis. You know, so if we leave it to Gaia, okay, she will send more COVID-19 20s and 30s because the conditions are there. So I thought of, and you mentioned, a rearrangement of the social organization, the village. So I was thinking back to community, not just back to nature, but recreation of community under the conditions that we have today. So in the periphery of the world, we have that. You know, in the Amazon, the indigenous tribes in Mexico, everywhere, you still have this village survival mode, which is not into the industrial mode. So that was one thing. And then Gandhi, he envisioned a way that I would like to check with you, the Swadeshi, the self-management,
I think we have a problem, right? I think Azriel just lost connection.
Okay, I can follow him, and he mentioned the consumerism. Okay, he come again.
About transition from one mode of production, one kind of civilization to another. And there are attempts in the transition movement to go about it with not just circular economy, looking at values, foundational values, and values are the kernel of civilization. So I would like to know your take on transition towns or the movement, on the how to change the chip from consumerism to simple life, to from Coca-Cola to water that is not in plastic bottles, to quality potable water, which is a scarce community everywhere. You know, you go to the highest point in the mountains of Peru, you find Coca-Cola, and the water could be contaminated, in the jungle as well. So this change of chip is something at the level of what Freire will call unlearning the old ways and conscientization of new ways. And I like very much, I am an agricultural scientist in the beginning. And then in Rosario, in Argentina, there is a very strong movement making the city of Rosario a kind of Gaia city. If you're not familiar, I think you would like to know about it. But anyway, I spoke too much and I wasn't thinking of that. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Professor Chen, do you want to further elaborate, or shall we go to the next question?
Oh, okay. I would like to give more explanation with Beckel's comment. So, and he mentioned the communalism and simple life, capitalism. So I didn't mention in this talk, but actually the consumerism, the capitalism, so they are also a part of the industrial civilization. Maybe also it's so if we change from the industrial civilization to ecological civilization, and also means we have to give up the consumerism, have to give up at least we change the capitalism. And so in my last page of the PowerPoint, the last page for the question, what kind of life is good life? So if we do not change the answer to this question, and we cannot move away from industrial civilization. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. I want to give the opportunity to the people who have asked questions in the Q&A section. And I actually noticed that before there were 2 questions, so I'm not sure whether one is being translated. But meanwhile, we have a question by Beatrice Morera. And maybe we can first ask Beatrice to explain her question, or shall we just read it?
Dear Professor, congratulations for your instating speech. My question: to change the way we organize our life, we need information and an adequate knowledge. In your opinion, which role correspond to the state, the mass media, and education in this sense? Yeah, of course, we need to more and more new knowledge. So I can give you a simple answer to this. So in our knowledge, most the basic of my knowledge came from the fundamental education from our school, especially the primary school, middle school, from there. So, but in this school, those education are are parts of industrial civilization. Those education are served for industrial civilization. So we have to change the education. So we have to put some new knowledge, like at least ecology. More knowledge about the nature, the more knowledge about the natural history, evolution. That is, I think that those knowledge is more important than the knowledge of the nowadays, like the high tech, those knowledge based on the mathematical, physical scientist. So also in mass media, we need to change. We need to, people should learn more knowledge about ecology. Just like like you just mentioned, the burning garbage. So burning garbage, what things go inside the air? So people will say, oh, the poisonous gas is just not very not so much. It's under a line, security line, so it's safe. So don't worry about that. So if we see it from the knowledge nowadays we learned from the school, we will trust it. But if you have the knowledge of ecology, you won't trust this guarantee. Okay, this is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, lots. And I believe Beatrice actually also opened her video. So I wonder whether she wants to add something or no. Okay.
Beatrice,
if you're
please
speaking,
unmute.
you have to unmute yourself first. Beatrice, you're not unmuted. You're still muted, so we cannot hear you at this moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor. I really appreciate your answer. As a professor, I think education is a key tool, really, for any transformation. And as a former journalist, I also think that mass media, and particularly those who are committed to the change, are also very important. But thank you very much. Your speech was really, really brilliant. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, I see that we have one question from a Chinese viewer, and the name is here not provided. But the question is, under the conditions of globalized competition, can we really stop the pace of development? So I think that is something that we can indeed also take into consideration, the political economy aspect, the questions about the economy, and how the current setup of the economy and the global competition are instigating only more and more development and celebration thereof. So, for instance, as I also mentioned with regard to circular economy is a corporate discourse, a discourse that corporations also use a lot because they do acknowledge the problems we have, at least some of them. But they think there is, even in those times of problems and times of crisis or catastrophe, as this symposium is about, they think there is still a business model, right? And there's still somewhere money to be made. So how do we consider the question of the economy and global competition in relation to the problem of waste, the problem of garbage, and the problem of sustainable life? Professor Chan, do you have any ideas about this?
Okay, thank you. This is the very common question. So many people ask a similar question: how can we stop? Because, but we have to think about a way. So I in this talk, I said the industrial civilization. The industrial civilization is a globalized civilization. It's the whole. So I'm talking about the future of the whole human being, not a future of any specified country. So if we if we see it from one country, every country say, oh, I cannot stop. If I stop, the other country will be stronger than me and they will beat me. So I can't stop. So every country said we can't stop. So every country can make the competition together. And this is the nowadays industrial civilization. That is the way. So this competition make the make Gaia, make the global ecosystem destroyed. It's already at the limitation. It will die. Gaia will die. So if Gaia die, every country die, every people die. So so human in every country, especially the intellectuals, journalists, and people can talk. People care about humans' future, not only their country's future. Should came together to think about the question for the whole human. How can we stop together? That is my answer. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it seems we have a machine without a stop button, right? We don't have a stop. I have seen there are two more questions. Maybe I will first ask or pay attention to the question that also came from one of the Chinese participants about entropy and whether whether ecological agriculture will actually still not reverse the problem of entropy and the problem that there's always some decay, according to the second law of thermodynamics. But maybe it is only a matter of slowing down. So I think the question here is, are we trying to just make the speed of the catastrophe slower, or are we able to reverse and really prevent catastrophe? Is there really a possibility to be sustainable forever? Or according to the law of thermodynamics, that's actually not possible. I think that's the question here.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand this question. So I try to answer the question by analogy. So every people will die. Every people will die. Nobody can live forever. But every people want to die naturally. They want to be killed, not be die by some special disease. They hope they can die naturally. Also, the Gaia will die. Of course, Gaia will die. The Earth will die. The global, the solar system will die. That is nature. But Gaia won't be killed by human. Gaia want to be killed by the incurable disease by human. That's my
yes. Yes, indeed. And I think there's maybe also something to say here for the inequalities in this process, right? And the moments of injustice in this process, because, for instance, about climate change, we could say it will affect everybody. Like climate change will have such consequences that the rich also cannot protect themselves, or the rich countries cannot protect themselves. The country where I grew up, where I was born, the Netherlands. And it is already under the sea level under normal conditions, right? So even a country that is rich may face effects of climate change that are too sudden, too big, too surprising to deal with. But at the same time, yes, all these structures of inequality and structures of injustice, they do matter. So even if we all somehow are impacted by climate change, or even if, you know, in the end, Gaia is supposed to dissolve, you know, the process that we face at this moment of ecological troubles and catastrophe will impact some people more than others. So I think we need to think about those structural questions of justice and inequality as well here. Do you have any ideas about this, Professor Chen? You already talked about the movement of waste, the global flows of waste, but I actually wonder whether you have a view about maybe Asia in particular, how inequality matters here.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. So this is the second curve mechanism of industrial civilization. This is the food chain of the modernization and the globalization. So the upstream country has the priority to make use of the energy resource from the downstream country, and also they has the priority to dump the garbage to the downstream countries. So this is also, of course, it's not fair. So, but it also is the for the solution, also the similar with my approach to the countryside. For the countryside, at first, the countryside should refuse the garbage from the city. So now they refuse the garbage from the city, and they try to treat the garbage by themselves, produced by themselves and treated by themselves. Also for the downstream country, same. The downstream country, especially the government, should reject the garbage from the upstream countries. So do not make money from the garbage. In sometimes not the people who try to take the garbage from the upstream country, it's the government try to make money from this kind of way, and also the payment is the destroyer of the local ecosystem. So it's not a good way to make money. So the downstream country should refuse it. Yeah.
But what we often see is that informal economies emerge in places where waste is flowing toward, and there can actually be it can be against the law. It can be a matter of like illegal economies, or it can be gray areas where the law is not specific or cannot be implemented very well. And there we see that informal economies are emerging that actually repurpose waste and reuse waste. So there's also a question about if we dismiss the ways in which well, recycling is promoted as a a corporate strategy. For instance, you can return your iPhone, or you can return I don't know, your fridge or so, but then immediately you can buy a new iPhone that is newer, right? If we dismiss that idea of recycling, which is so connected to consumption, and to actually what is called planned obsolescence, so to the idea of commodities being designed in order to be thrown out prematurely, to be thrown out very early so that you buy something new again, then we can ask, okay, but what then about recycling in the informal setting, where we have a very tricky situation, because on the one hand, we have less supervision and control. It is often, as I said, a gray area of society, gray area of the law. At the same time, we see that in those informal economies, people might have skills to actually, you know, put the television together from all kind of old television parts, or put recycle mobile phones in ways that consumers in rich places cannot do because they don't have those skills. So informal economies to me seem very interesting places. They suggest that we can deal differently with our waste, and we can learn from them. We can see skills and creativity in those places. But at the same time, it's tricky, right? Because there's no supervision. So there's less strict monitoring, right? It's often happening in places where the law is weaker, or where the implementation of the law is weaker. So that is, I think, something that is to me, you know, yeah, is to me an interesting problem. Like, if we don't want to leave the responsibility of recycling to corporations, because we suspect that there will always be actually still planned obsolescence, and there will still be a business model that is profitable but that doesn't account for the waste, then what about the alternatives of informal societies? And I think in actually mainland China, we have seen places like Guiyu, and also places like Shenzhen, actually, where waste is being repurposed. And we see both the potential of that and the dangers of that, because we see how indeed, you know, people have the skills to make new electronics out of old ones, but we also have seen how this has impacted ecology and the health of the people living in places where informal recycling is taking place, and there is no good supervision and monitoring of what happens with the toxic and dangerous aspect of recycling. So I was wondering if Professor Chen has any ideas about whether the informal sector is a good place or a bad place, or what we can learn from them. Do you have any experience with that?
You mean for the reuse of e-waste? Oh yeah, actually
that is one, I think, in China, a very important sector of waste industries.
Yeah, I read some report for the e-waste treatment in Guiyu, Guangdong, you just mentioned, and also some place in India, in Pakistan. So people treat the e-waste by different ages of technology, by hand, by manual, by the small machine to treat it, and the cost is the damage of the local water, the local land. So it's of course it's not a good way. So it's just like what I mentioned is that I just gave an analogy, the fragment of the cake. So you pick up all the fragment of the cake, and it's not a way for recycle, because it's not economical. It's not, what should I say? So you pay more than you get. But if I can force another people, I force him to collect the fragment for me, and he cannot refuse me, I can do that. He collect all the fragment and I take it, but he lost his healthy. So that is the way of the like Guiyu or other Pakistan, Indian place to retreat the e-waste. It seems like they can reuse the make the e-waste more benefit, reuse it. It seems like it's good, but actually the cost is more than what we have, because because there's two kinds of cost. One is the health of the worker. The health of the worker, and analogy is the health of the local ecosystem.
Yes, so those structural inequalities, they actually matter again, and we don't consider the costs in terms of human health.
Yeah.
The people who are working in those informal sites. Actually, there is one question that was already asked a while ago from Rafaela from the Universitas Indonesia about COVID-19 pandemic and infectious medical waste. So it seems that maybe the pandemic is a moment where in some ways the world is standing still, and many people maybe hope that it would be a moment for reflection on how we live. But even in this moment, we have new problems such as masks and other medical equipment that seems to need special treatment. So I wonder if Rafaela has a particular reason to ask this question. Is this question of particular relevance in Indonesia? Has there been a problem with the waste? Maybe Rafaela wants to explain. Yes, so that has been a particular problem during the pandemic. So maybe what we see that in these times of having an exceptional situation, we actually have a lot of lack in terms of governance, right? We produce waste that we're not used to, and it becomes a problem. So I think the question has been already taken down. But so the question I think that Rafaela wanted to ask is, what do we do with really dangerous types of waste, right? And COVID could be one example of that. So another example that comes to my mind is nuclear waste. So nuclear energy is also advertised as something that is, supposedly green and sustainable, but then the waste is to my mind such a problem for which we don't have a solution. I know that there's a documentary in which the documentary makers try to create signage for future civilizations that do not speak English or Chinese or any of the big languages nowadays, to warn them about nuclear waste being stored at some place on Earth, like deep down in the Earth, and warn future generations far away from today in time not to enter. But this does suggest that sometimes our waste is so toxic or so dangerous that it seems to be, we're not even able to think of recycling in those cases. But it seems to be just there. And maybe COVID has now produced masks and so that maybe are also exposing certain populations to the disease. But yeah, maybe that brings us to the theme of what about really dangerous types of waste? Should we just, what can we do about that? I mean, ship it to another planet or not produce it in the first place? Can we live in a world without producing that kind of really dangerous type of waste? So really dangerous type of waste, Professor Chen, do you have any ideas about this?
Thank you. You mean about the nuclear waste or about the mask about the?
Well, I see the analogy there being that they're both, we're talking about waste that have no potential to be recycled and that only pose a danger.
Okay, you mean the both the nuclear waste and the the medical waste are both danger?
Yeah.
No, of
Yeah.
course, they're both danger. Yeah, it's actually it's hard to say because I wrote some articles about nuclear waste. It's because we leave the waste to the next generations. That is not responsibility. Responsible behavior is not good behavior. So the medical waste is a paradox. So it's a very actually one of my students her doctoral dissertation is about medical waste. It's a paradox. At first, it seemed that we need modern medicine. We need medicine to give us a more healthy life. And at the same time, it produces more medical waste. And the medical waste, actually, we have many cases for that. Some people at the downstream get cancer because of the medical waste from the upstream, and also the medical waste is a poison waste, and it's more dangerous to the ecosystem. So this is a paradox. It needs us to balance how it's a balance for our humans' life with Gaia's life. I'm not sure if this is a understandable analogy. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We just don't have a we cannot think of a good solution here. We have only we can only point to the problem, right? I think that maybe we can take the question by Kinji and the question by Feng Zhang together. So Kinji was actually asking about industrial civilization in the chat. She says it's an oxymoron if you follow the arguments of Professor Chen. So Kinji wonders how your views have been received in China among scientists or academics or the public in general. And I think I'm also very curious to know that because of the strong, on one hand, the strong belief in development and the strong drive to celebrate development, and on the other hand, there is the notion of an ecological civilization too. So I also really wonder how your rather critical views have been received, and maybe more pessimistic views than the mainstream discourse around recycling and waste and the possibilities that we still have. And then Fang Zheng asks, how do you pull the improvement of your anti-science or your thinking of science in the China or other countries' government's perspective, and how to balance the science and the critique of science? So I think the anti-science means like the critique of mainstream science and how to influence the government policy. So I think the two questions ask you if you have a more critical view, and if you have on if you critique the dominant tendencies in the world of technology and science to seek solutions and to just think that humans will always be somehow smart enough to come with a solution, or if we only use more energy and only put more smart people together, build more science and technology parks, we will come up with a solution. But it seems that you really don't think that that is possible in that way. So how have your views been received, and Is it still possible for you to influence government policy or not at all?
Okay, I try to answer those questions. So for Jianzhi's question, so how much my views be received? Yeah, so I think there's more and more people received my opinions. So more and more at the very beginning, like 20 years ago, when I mentioned the garbage problem, I say the garbage problem is not solvable, and it will be because of this, and industrial civilization can't be sustainable, and many people cannot understand me, and they think I'm crazy. I'm so aggressive and not. But in maybe I think at least 10 years ago, and more people received, especially my colleagues. So more people can understand what I say, and so even in the public. So like I often ask a question. I say, so we stop. Can we stop? So I gave an example like the iPhone. So it's the I have an iPhone 6. So before I have an iPhone 6, when I have an iPhone 4, and I ask people, so because the iPhone 4 is good enough for me. It's very good enough for me. I cannot make use all the functions of iPhone 4. So I think iPhone 4 is good to me, and I need an iPhone 5. So, and I ask the audience, can we stop at iPhone 4? And we never have iPhone 5. Or if we have iPhone 5, how about 10 years ago, not next year? And at the very beginning, more people keep silence. They think I'm art, I'm insane. But some years later, I ask the same question. Like, I have iPhone 6, and how can we stop at iPhone 6? We never have iPhone 7. Or maybe 10 years ago, we have iPhone 7. So to my surprise, my kindergarten teacher said, we can stop iPhone at iPhone 6. So I think people try to believe that, and especially many, like the teachers in kindergarten, teachers in primary school, and they try to find a new way, because actually I don't know in other countries, actually in China, there is so competitive. The students have the so competitive life, not a happy childhood. So I think more people accept my my opinions. So for the second one, so some years ago, I just wrote a paper about the four movement. There is four movement in China, the four cultural movement or social movement, and at the same time as the academic movement. And the first time is the science cultural movement. Actually, it's the some people name it anti-science cultural movement. It's a movement to rethink about science and technology, to rethink about the role of science and technology in our society. What is the role? Does it only give us benefit? What's the bad things of what's the negative side of it? And we accept the idea, and double-edged sword. Science and technology is a double-edged sword. So good side, bad side. So if we believe it has bad side, how much bad side it will have? If the bad side, if the negative side is more than the positive side, the role, the value of science and technology in our society should be reversed. Yeah, that is the naturally thinking. But after that, also we have a movement about the theory of science communication. If the role of science, the role and value of science and technology changed, and how about our science communication, about our science education? What we should we do? What kind of things we should teach people? As I just mentioned in other question, we should teach people, teach children about more knowledge about nature, more knowledge about evolution, natural history, ecology. That is more important than mathematics, more physics, the computer technology, more important than that. So, and also we have another movement is the new movement of natural history. And also the recent years is the theory construction of ecological civilization. If the industrial civilization can't be sustainable, so we should move to a ecological civilization. And what ecological civilization is, what it should be like, what's the inner part of it, what can we do? So it's the, I think it's the it's along the same logic from the science cultural movement 20 years ago. Yeah. So of course, right now at the very beginning, I don't care people call us anti-science, and also I call myself anti-science, and we call ourselves anti-science. We don't care about that. But right now, I prefer to not to use the anti-science, not to use this word. I prefer to rethink about the science and the technology, to rethink about the role, the value of them in our society. And in the future ecological civilization, we still need science and technology. Science and technology will be an important role in the future ecological civilization. But what kind of science, what kind of technology, we should have a new definition. We should think about it in a new way. That's my quick answer to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think it is indeed better to rethink science than to give up on the idea of science altogether, or to use the label of anti-science, because as we actually learned in this lecture, Professor Chen draws from thermodynamic theory and actually has studied science, right? And that is where his critique actually comes from. So it is important to not exclude those domains of knowledge, but to re-articulate their cultural and political relevance in society, and to think about what goals they actually serve. About science education, we have talked about that briefly before. We mentioned it briefly before too. I think maybe we can end on this note, because we are already we run already over time, and Kinji told me that that was okay. But I think we should at some point, of course, also not make Professor Chen more tired, and we should finish the session. So I wanted to actually maybe end with a little anecdote. I learned about this from another waste scholar. Her surname is Hurt. and she wrote about indigenous people in northern Canada who were always seen as well, their community was seen as impoverished. They were seen as being very uneducated, not have good economic status, and they were seen as in need of a lot of guidance about their health, about how to live, about how to stay away from alcohol and drugs and so. One interesting additional problem was waste in that area. And while there were a lot of scholars from the urban parts of Canada coming to their community to teach them about waste, they would always critique them and criticize them for having the waste just lie on the fields and out on the countryside, you know. And that is something that in Hong Kong, where I live, you also see a lot, you know, like actually the villagers leave the waste on the countryside everywhere, and you go there, you want to make a hike in a beautiful part of nature, and you find waste everywhere. You know, the same issue apparently was at stake in Canada. But what the researcher argued about this was very interesting to me. She said that for the particular indigenous peoples in northern Canada, leaving the waste around, lying open in the field, was a matter of being honest. Now, I thought that was very interesting, because that means that the way in which we deal with waste in our clean cities, where you won't find waste lying around everywhere, is actually a matter of dishonesty, you know, being hypocritical. Okay, so we make the waste, but we don't want to see it, right? And so we hide it. Then in the end, it gets transported out of our cities, as we have discussed today, to other places. And that is where people have more familiarity with waste. And sometimes they develop skills, and they develop a certain kinds of creativity to reuse waste and to make new things of it, which can be a good thing. But as we also learned today, there is often a huge price to pay in terms of human health, because often the waste recycling in the informal sector is not done in a way that is healthy and that protects human health. But at the same time, what we can say is that you know, the way in which we make our cities devoid, like free of waste, is a matter of just turning our backs and not wanting to see the consequences of our lifestyles. Whereas these people in northern Canada actually lived with their waste, and in a way that made their landscape very ugly, because there was waste everywhere. But that also was to them, as they explained to the researcher, a matter of being honest about what you have done, or being honest about your traces. Now, what made this case even more interesting is that actually these particular places had been used for storing all kinds of like industrial waste from the cities and from what today in the lecture we have all the time referred to as like industrial civilization, in a way that is actually way more detrimental and way more harmful to ecology than the waste from the villagers. So the villagers got to be accused all the time for leaving their waste around, but meanwhile they actually had to deal with waste that was much more harmful from industrial civilization at the same time. But supposedly that treatment of waste was part of being an industrial civilization that keeps the cities clean. But at the same time, we can now agree with the villagers, I think, and with the indigenous people in northern Canada is rather hypocritical. So in terms of science communication and the question of education and so, I think it is also important that we see what we do and that we are more exposed to it. yeah, that you can ask, maybe there need to be more documentaries about these topics, or the schools need to pay more attention to it. But somehow we need to get close to our waste. And that is also personally my critique of the idea of, you know, take back schemes, such as many technology corporations have nowadays, where you can have, you know, your iPhone taken back by the corporation and you can quickly buy a new one. Or circular economy business models, where actually the corporations are the only one to own the waste. But maybe we should not think that corporations can or should take that responsibility. Of course, we want corporations to act responsibly, but at the same time, I think we should still also maybe own our own waste and take responsibility for our own waste, because as I think we have discussed today, we need to be very critical of the idea of recycling. Recycling can mean many, many different things, and often it means something way more polluting and way more harmful than what we think. So if we leave the responsibility for our waste to corporations without that we ask what happens to our waste, and if we don't get familiar with our own waste, maybe we are not able to have this critical mindset and this critical eye to distinguish between the different processes that all use the same magical word of recycling, or a green circular economy, or a sustainable model. So we need to really know actually what it means to have waste, what the different wastes are, and what they do, and how they harm, or how they also how they can be reused in the least polluting way. So maybe we will stop here because it is already very late, and we already run over time.
Yes.
So I want to thank Professor Chen for a wonderful lecture, many very inspiring thoughts. I hope you will hear a lot more about his work.